Hey guys, it's Danny. Alrighty, today we're going to discuss about Phalaenopsis species, particularly the summer blooming species. So what we have in front of us is a bunch of very stressed orchids. I had a few mishaps with many of them, but most of them are kind of new. And most of them arrived from one of my viewers in Germany, and they spent 1 month on transport. Because today, except for the update, I'll also share with you a few more tips regarding their care. As I've discovered, they are easy to care for, even for beginners. They resemble the complex hybrids that we all know and love a lot, but there's a very big difference between them. So first up, let's make a little general update on all of them, see how they're doing, and then discuss about the issues that you will see on them and how I fixed them. So first, let's start with the Phalaenopsis bellina because she's the oldest one in my collection. Now I think you can already see what's wrong with her. You can see the pitting. If you don't know what this is, I did make a lot of videos on this issue, but if you're new and you don't know what's going on, check out the video below. It has to do with the virus, but don't fret, it's not such a bad virus and the orchids will overcome it. So don't worry, just check out the description down below. So there we go. This is the new leaf, and as we can see, there is no more pitting on the new leaf. So indeed, the moment that you get rid of the spider mites, and of course you limit the stress through which the orchid goes, is the moment the orchid will be healed and everything will be okay with the world. So the bellina is actually doing quite nice, but you can see I have a sort of strangulation here on the leaf. We'll get to that. She's not the only one, and I found the cause and the fix. So as far as the bellina goes, everything is going okay. The roots inside are doing very well, pretty hard to show you. They are okay, they are growing, so everything is okay with her. I expect her to make a full recovery, and fingers crossed that the virus will not show signs on the new leaf, because this virus is systemic. As long as the orchid is stressed, the virus will keep attacking it, but once the stress is over and things return to normal, it will be eliminated by the orchid. So that's it with the bellina. The rest of these orchids, many of them, as I was saying, arrived from one of my lovely viewers from Germany. In full summer, 1 month on transport resulted into a lot of stress, a lot of root damage. Many of the roots have actually died, and now they're actually recuperating. But then I was not a very good mom either. I'll give it that I didn't know. But overall, as you can see, pretty much everybody's bouncing back. However, I think you can see a little bit of a resemblance between all of these leaves. Here I have the same strangulation and a little curvature. There I have the same thing happening. Also on this one, same thing happening. But as you can see, things are returning to normal. As for a little update, the Sederia is producing a flower bud, which is nice, and also she is growing bigger and bigger leaves. You can see the difference between the older leaves and the new ones. This is pure sign of stress, and pretty much it's the same story with everybody else. So what actually stressed them? Well, first of all, I was unlucky because they were already stressed from transport, but then I didn't actually provide what they needed. And what Phalaenopsis summer blooming species need is moisture and water, and abundant water actually. Alrighty, so a few months back I actually changed my setup. If you remember, I used to use clay pots with my clay medium, and all of my orchids were potted this way, until I realized that my clay pots are actually not helping all that much. When they dry out, they start to suck the moisture of the more sensitive rooted orchids. It wasn't necessarily the case with these orchids. Their root tips were okay. What was happening though was that the roots were not growing properly, and I was able to see this when I repotted everyone. So let's do a little carbon dating. No, it's not carbon dating, but let's look a little bit at these leaves. We can see that all of them have a strangulation towards the tip. Chronologically, that coincides with the moment that they started new leaf production while they were still in the clay pots. I switched them to the new medium. As you can see, everybody's now in plastic. Oh, here we have a nice root growing. Good girl. So I switched everybody in plastic, which gave me the opportunity to actually maintain things a lot more moist. And then the miracle happened. The leaves started to grow absolutely normal, not taking into account all of the stress and the size of the leaves, which is pretty normal. A stressed orchid will always first create smaller structures, and then as it establishes and gains strength, it will start to grow normal structures. However, things are just so dramatic. This is the exact moment in which I switched all of these to the plastic pot. At the moment, I don't let them go completely bone dry, and this is the case with many of my orchids. This setup is airy enough for the orchids to still breathe while being moist all the time, and as far, at least as the Phalaenopsis go, I never ever let the medium go dry. The result is absolutely baffling. I have new roots starting and growing nicely. You've already seen the other root growing. This did not happen in the clay pots. And this is only due to the fact that in the clay pots, things were drying out so fast. The walls of a clay pot are very porous. They of course let the medium breathe, but they also promote excessive drying around the edges of the pot. As it just so happens, that's where the roots tend to sit, as you can see in this pot. So what was happening was that my orchids were thirsty, and I absolutely didn't realize it. In one of my previous videos in which I was talking about the summer bloomers, I did tell you that I have a feeling they do enjoy more moisture than the complex hybrids. And this is the absolute proof for me. And I do realize now that all I did was to further stress these orchids after the stress they endured last summer. Therefore, I did not have the results that I was expecting. So from now on, I am expecting still a period in which they will need to regain strength and bounce back. But as you can see, the difference between the old setup and the new setup is like night and day. I was absolutely not expecting that. So, what can you take from this video? Do not let your summer blooming species go completely bone dry. They're not like the complex hybrids. These orchids are still hardy, they do bounce back, but everything is accentuated with them. The wait until they regain strength and normal growth is longer. The water needs are higher. If you can provide higher humidity in the air, that would be lovely, although they can do without if they're properly watered. Leaf production is not as abundant. Everything pretty much is a bit more extreme with the summer blooming species. They are less heavier feeders than the complex hybrids due to their slow growth, of course, but they do absolutely need nutrients, just don't go overboard. The most important thing is to maintain this humidity, and I didn't realize it until now how important it is, but it really is. So if you are a, let's say, beginner with orchids, you have some experience, definitely I would go for the summer blooming orchids. Many of them are fragrant, they're beautiful, but just remember, do not let them dry. They absolutely hate it. When they switch environment to your environment, they will most probably take their time to adjust, so don't worry if they don't do anything. No root production, no leaf production, no flowers, don't worry, it can take up to a year. But once they start to grow, they should be a joy. Now for the organic version, I do believe that a mix with sphagnum moss and bark will go very well for them. And I've actually seen other growers use pure sphagnum moss with these orchids, and they thrive, they love it. You just need to know how to water sphagnum moss. I'll link you down below to a video about that. Sphagnum moss is not a killer if you use it properly. It can save a lot of time and it can make orchids flourish indeed. You just need to use it properly, and I do believe these orchids will love sphagnum moss. About growth times, don't expect much during winter time, particularly if in your environment is pretty cold, the days are short, light quantity is low, and so on. These girls mainly kind of grow during summer, and they don't grow many leaves per year. If you have a stressed orchid that produces tiny leaves, yes, it will create multiple leaves. But as you can see in the case of my Bellina, I don't suspect that she will create more than 1 or 2 leaves per year, and that's okay. It's just the growth pattern and the growth rhythm, and it is normal for these types of orchids. Now before I let you go, let me show you another Phalaenopsis, let's call it species, although I don't call it Phalaenopsis. I think it's worth mentioning it because yet again I'm baffled about her evolution after the switch. And here she is, this is my Sederia japonica. I am including her because recently it appears they have been reclassified as Phalaenopsis. In all honesty, they are very related. When I had the virus issue with the pitting, this one got affected as well. However, she overcame that infection, and as you can see, only the bottom leaf still has some pitting. But the new leaves are perfect and shiny, and she made a full recovery. I cannot believe it. I think I'll include this one in a then and now video. Alrighty, so this orchid was, again, stressed for quite a lot of time. Then she had the spider mite infestation. She had to deal with that virus, which takes up energy from orchids. You don't see it. It goes on inside the orchid, but there's a battle which requires a lot of energy, so she's over that. And also, I now see she really didn't like being potted in a clay pot, yet again, because of that moisture thing. So as far as the Sederia / Phalaenopsis japonica is concerned, I cannot believe how fast she recovered ever since the switch. And by this, please don't understand that my current setup is the best setup to grow orchids in. No. It only provides humidity. It doesn't promote excessive drought or suffocation or anything of the sorts. It can be replicated with any type of medium that can offer the very same conditions. It can also be replicated by the frequency of watering. There is absolutely no trouble if you grow this orchid in pure bark chips, which don't retain a lot of water. I just believe that these types of orchids are pretty sensitive when it comes to excessive drought, excessive drying out, and I personally just believe they will do a lot better if they are rather moist or if you don't skip watering day, particularly with the summer bloomers. So I'm excited that now they do appear to do a lot better. I do still have a lot of wait in front of me before I get them to be vigorous, but things are looking bright. I am really happy I decided to change the setup. It's taking a lot of time, but I think it's worth it. So alrighty guys, this was the video for today. Thank you for suggesting an update on my Phalaenopsis species. So there you go. I hope this video will be helpful for you. If you've enjoyed it, please give it a thumbs up. If you hated it, give it a thumbs down. Subscribe to my channel for regular orchids and plants videos, and don't forget to turn on notifications so you never miss a video. And with that said, I'll see you all next time. Bye! Sally, the Ivanagara, is losing her flowers. She has been in bloom for quite a long time, so I'm not complaining, but it's time to say goodbye to these flowers and look forward to the new growth, which is just starting there. I just transferred this orchid. Can you believe the amount of roots? She did quite well. Cattleya's in general are pretty easy orchids, but from time to time you get the odd bifoliate that will make your life miserable. Not the Ivanagara.